Who I believe to be the true birthers of choosing beggars, it's entitled parents. Our first one is from Ryan Space Ace. My 18 male birthday is today, and I'm moving out within the next couple days. My mom is losing it because she won't be able to scream at me for nothing anymore. My grandpa is thankfully letting me stay with him until I can get my own place and get on my feet. I was out with my band to celebrate, and I got home in the evening around 6. My mom didn't talk to me, and my stepdad only said hi. My stepdad asked me what was next, and I told him I was moving out. A little while ago, my mom screamed at me because she wanted to move out with me, but I'm not letting her. Truth be told, I'm moving out to get away from her. I didn't know if my stepdad knew about my mom wanting to move out, so I told him about that, and he went silent, then left. Later, I was watching Jurassic Park and I heard my mom and stepdad arguing. They've argued before, but this was worse. They were full on screaming at each other. Towards the end of the movie, my mom came into my room and started to scream at me for telling my stepdad about her wanting to move out with me. Then she told my stepdad, "It doesn't even matter, he's not letting me live with him." And my stepdad said, "It does matter. You didn't tell me that you were going to move out and leave me in the dust." They argued more until my stepdad left the house. My mom came to my room and screamed at me for telling my stepdad about her plan. She said I was disturbing the peace, then went outside and is now smoking. I don't want her moving in with me because she screams at me for the smallest things. An example is when she screamed at me for being a pig when I burped in the bathroom a couple days ago, and she basically wants to quit her job and live in my basement so I can support her. I actually find it a little funny that she thinks I can afford a place with a basement right now, but anyway, I really don't know how to end this post, so I'm gonna leave it here. It definitely sounds like your mom is a control freak and just wants to continue controlling you well into adulthood. I'm glad you put your foot down though and are not letting that happen. This next one is also by Ryan Space Ace, and it's a follow-up to the last one. I, 18 male, just moved out of my entitled parents' place. My mom made it so hard when I was moving. As of earlier today, I moved basically all my stuff and only had a few things left. My mom called one of her friends over and told her that I was moving out. The friend that came over had a kid 2 years younger than me. We went to the same school before I graduated. When I would walk home from school, more often than not, I'd hear her bad-mouthing my mom to the other parents. I only heard bits and pieces of my mom and her friend's conversation, but from what I heard, my mom told her friend that she gave me a place to live for 18 years and now I was leaving without paying her back or paying rent for the time I stayed there after my 18th birthday. I turned 18 not even 3 days ago. Her friend went off on me, telling me I should be ashamed of myself and that she doesn't know how my mom got stuck with me as a kid. I wanted to say something back, but I just put my earbuds in and listened to music. A little while later, just before I was leaving, I noticed I was missing a picture of me and my band in costume. We're a Kiss tribute band. I'm Ace Frehley in the band. I looked around and saw my mom and her friend looking at it, laughing to themselves and criticizing me. I took it back and my mom said, "I don't know how you're still in that band. They could get a much better guitarist." I said, "I may not be the best guitarist, but my friends don't talk about me behind my back." Then I took the picture and left. My mom and her friend argued as I was leaving. My stepdad hasn't come home yet. I texted him and asked if he was alright, and he said he was staying at his friend's house until he could process the situation. Even though he's a major asshole and lectures me for no reason, part of me still felt a little bad. I'm at my grandpa's house now. I still have to get settled, but I'm free. I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. My grandpa even got me a flying V for my birthday. I usually play my Les Paul, but the V looks badass. I'm happy with it. Once again, I really don't know how to end this post, so I'm going to leave it here. I'm glad that it seems like things are working out well for you. On the home front end, not really sure how things will play out. It seems like a massive mess, but the fact that you stayed stern and didn't give in to your mom, it just shows you're off to a great start. This next one is from Jurassica Park 24. This happened years ago at this point, but I just found this sub. For some context, my father died when I was very young, and he was gay, so my grandmother didn't think he was a good influence or parent. Divorce left my mom a single parent more or less, because my dad really did have a lot going on at the time and wasn't fit to be the sole provider for me, so she relied on my grandparents, my father's parents, for a lot. Because of this, my mom was very reliant on them for money, and usually just let my grandmother have her way about things. Something she got her way about until I turned 18 was that I went to Catholic school. I was an altar girl at church, was ordained to give out the Eucharist during Mass, the whole shebang. On to the story. I was turning 19 and had just moved home that summer from my first year of college. I couldn't afford a second year there, so I moved home and was enrolling in community college. Since I was home for my birthday, my grandparents offered to take me out for dinner. Diners were always their jam, so I picked one I liked and we go to dinner, and we're having a nice time. Then, they bring the bill. Grandpa gets up to pay at the counter, as is typical with American diners, and that's when she strikes. Alone at the table with my grandmother for the occasion of my birthday, she proceeds to tell me how disappointed she is that I've stopped going to church, how she feels like I'm wasting the Catholic education she convinced my mother I needed, presumably so I wouldn't turn out gay like my father, and then this deeply saddens her as I'm surely going to hell as a result. I was stunned. She'd never spoken to me like this before. I don't even know how I responded. I genuinely don't remember. What I do remember is realizing in that moment that nothing I ever accomplished would ever be good enough for her if it didn't include her faith as well. Grandpa came back to the table and she immediately shut up. Grandpa would have never let her say anything like that to me, and certainly not at a celebration for my birthday. It was like, once I turned 18 and was really, finally able to start making decisions for myself, she realized she was losing control of me. I have plenty stories of her. She's been a constant presence in my life for years, like the time she tricked me into visiting my father's grave. Just not sure how well received grandparent stories are on this sub. Edit. A few people have asked about the grave story, and while I did reply to the story in a comment to someone, I feel like a dick just telling you all to go find the comment, so, for your reading pleasure, copied verbatim from my original comment. To give you the short, sweet version, he died when I was 12. When his headstone was ready, Grandma wanted to go out to his grave so a priest could bless the stone or something. I didn't want to go. The funeral was traumatic, to say the least. The worst way as a kid to be the center of attention is because one of your parents has just died. Anyways, I refused to go. A few weeks later, I'm on summer break and went to my grandparents' house every day while my mom worked. Basically, Grandma went and picked up my favorite cousin, took us to get lunch, and instead of going home after lunch, we ended up at the cemetery. I'd never felt so betrayed in my entire life. My aunt, edit to add, different aunt than the one who gives me grief for not visiting, ripped her about 16 new assholes when she found out. God, you hear stories about evil parents and evil grandparents, your grandma's definitely one. And for being a Catholic, she's really one to preach about who's gonna go to hell and who's not when she's sitting there not even living by the words she's supposed to be following. I wish you luck going forward. And our final one is by Thealdrich Ryder. This story took place around 2 years ago at my grand's house, and Aunt's son, C, was 7-ish, old enough that he should have known what he did was wrong. Aunt was obviously old enough that she should have known how he behaved was wrong. But alas, I don't think she's capable of that much self-reflection. It was around 6-ish at my grand's birthday party. We had just ate dinner, but dessert wasn't for another hour or so. C had this thing about food, still does in fact. He always claims to be hungry, but as soon as he has a plate of food, he's suspiciously not hungry anymore and refuses to eat. Then you'll find him chowing down on any cookie or cupcake he sees. Well, during dinner, he took a huge plate of food, but barely ate anything because he wasn't hungry. Though once he scrapped his plate into the trash and everyone else was done eating, he was hungry and wanted dessert. Aunt asked my gran if we could have the birthday cake now. She was told no. We'd have the dessert at a normal time, and C was more than welcome to have some cookies my other aunt brought. C didn't like that. He wanted chocolate cake, and Aunt wasn't happy about being told no. So she waited a few minutes, asked Grandma again because C is still hungry. Can't we have cake and ice cream early? My grandma actually snapped at her, telling her that he wouldn't be hungry if he had eaten his dinner. Aunt should have stopped at that, but she just argued that he wasn't hungry at the time. Other aunts pointed out that there were leftovers C could have if he wanted something to eat, but that wasn't good enough. 10 minutes go by. C comes over asking if it's time for cake yet. He wants dessert. My dad made a comment that it's not C's cake, and Grandma can very well keep it all to herself if she so wished, which C did not take well to, but he went scampering back inside, figured he was going to the back room to play Mario or something, and thought nothing of it. After a little bit, I go back in with my mother and aunt to help her with something, and when we go into the kitchen, there is C, holding a handful of cake in his bare hand and frosting on his face. Other aunt starts yelling at him, which brought the others in the house. Aunt's response when she saw, "C, you little stinker, you made a mess." That set my dad off, who blew up on her about how this was not a haha moment. Aunt just went, "Well, I told you C was hungry, he really wanted cake." As if that justified what he did. She even made a comment that we should have had someone watching the cake because C is such a troublemaker, we should have expected he'd do that. Gran sent C to the spare bedroom, telling him he's staying in there for the rest of the night, which upset Aunt because in her opinion, C did nothing wrong. He's just a kid who really wanted cake. Other Aunt and I went and bought a Walmart cake to replace the one C ruined. Aunt kept complaining about Gran punishing C, blaming his actions on her ex, his dad, as she always does when C gets in trouble, and after having a slice of cake, she left for home with C, canceling their plans to spend the night at my Gran's. Needless to say, for the rest of that year, none of us let C be alone with any cake. I think this was the point my other aunt stopped letting Aunt's behavior slide. The straw that broke the camel's back for her in regards to Aunt's behavior. I love how the aunt is just trying to say, oh, it's because he's a kid because he's hungry. No, it's because of lack of parenting. That's what it boils down to. Lack of boundaries and lack of enforcing discipline. Making excuses and, it's kids like this that turn out to be bad people because mommy always made excuses. Alright, that's enough entitlement for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Entitled Parents. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons, have a great day and stay safe out there.